California. Jeffrey Schwab of the Liberty Justice Center tells ABC News he's representing 5 U.S. importing businesses in a similar suit against the administration, claiming Trump's tariffs are unconstitutional.
Now, our argument is that the president, under this International Emergency Economic Powers Act, it doesn't authorize tariffs. It doesn't say tariffs at all.
The Justice Department suing the state of Maine, filing a federal sex discrimination lawsuit, arguing it's violated Title IX because it allows transgender athletes to compete in girls' and women's sports. A third top official at the Pentagon has been placed on administrative leave in retaliation and in relation to the leak investigation the DoD has been conducting. This is ABC News. Hamas has rejected a new 45-day ceasefire proposal from Israel. Israel's defense minister today says ground troops will stay in the security zone seized in the Gaza Strip, Lebanon, and also Syria indefinitely. And Israel says it will continue to ban humanitarian aid into Gaza as it works to pressure Hamas. ABC's Patrick Reevell has more.
Since Israel restarted the war, since the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas collapsed, they have been expanding these zones that basically are dividing the Gaza Strip into free areas. In particular, they've been expanding in the south. And by some estimates now, they occupy a very substantial proportion of the Gaza Strip.
In South Africa, U.S. missionary Josh Sullivan has been rescued after being kidnapped by armed masked men last week. Police say officers shot and killed 3 of his abductors during a gunfight Tuesday. He has since been reunited with his wife and 2 children. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. It may increase your stroke risk. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. Medications such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners may increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Grosvenor.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the program. How you guys hearing me over there?
Loud and clear.
All right, sounds good. Welcome back. It's Wednesday night. It's time for the Common Sense Conservatives live from the Western Cape in South Africa, deepest, darkest Africa. It's Chris. And over in East Tennessee, it's my friend there, Todd McKinley. And back there in studio, it's John Grosvenor in New Hampshire. Gents, what a crazy week. Indeed, President Trump being sued every time you turn around. But he's winning. He's of 7 cases gone to Supreme Court. He's won 5 to 7. Todd, how do you think it's looking for Trumpster?
Oh, yeah, 5 out of 7. That's a good batting average for sure. I mean, you're going to the Hall of Fame with those odds for sure. Absolutely winning.
Even better than Ty Cobb.
Yep, right. Yeah, better than better than Ty Cobb for sure. And not quite as crazy, I don't think. Ty Cobb's a little crazy.
Definitely not as crazy, but things are crazy over here. We'll get to that in a little bit, but we'll talk about the states here first. John, what's the word up there in New Hampshire? Are things going smoothly, or how you doing?
Yeah, things are going smoothly. You know, there's spreading lies, and we got our liberal left up here with Goodlander spreading lies about how women are going to lose their rights to votes and stuff based on the SAVE Act. And I mean, it's just complete and total fodder and ridiculousness. You know how it goes.
You mean that's not true? I heard it from the authority herself, Hillary Clinton.
I know. You'd think that it would be true, seeing how she's saying it. I mean, you know, with Russian collusion and elections and wiping servers with a cloth. Yeah. I believe everything she says.
I think we should ask Vince Foster. Ooh, sorry, too soon.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Uh-oh.
Well, you know, he did commit suicide from the back of the head. You know, I don't know how that and the gun
Yeah,
wound up somewhere else. Yeah, weird.
he was one of the most. He was like the Houdini of flexibility and dexterity.
Right.
So
yeah.
how many shots was the suicide? 3, 4, 5?
I don't know. It was
Worst case of self-inflicted suicide ever seen?
well. There's a lot of those suicides take place on park benches in Washington D.C. on the mall. We see them every day. Not, but anyway, yeah, Hillary Clinton. So, guys, listen. We'll get back to U.S. News a little bit, but I got to tell you. So, when I travel like this, I do these meet and greets where I invite my audience to come and we have conversations. People hang out, I answer questions and get to know each other. It's really rewarding for me. I get to know a lot of people. I got to tell you. We barely advertised this event we did here, located down here on the beach, a place called the Strand, and at the German brewery, the Kapstadt Brauhaus, the Cape Town brewery, and we barely advertised it. I expected, maybe a dozen, 15 people because we did one there last year. It was 8 people. So we pull up, and there's 30 people standing outside the building.
Holy cow!
Waiting for me, and we're out there for like 15 or 20 minutes taking photographs. Everybody wants to do a selfie. It was really cool. Met some nice people. A lot of them couldn't stay, so they left. About 20 plus of them left. And one of the guys that helps me organize this came down, a former military officer from the South African Forces. He's like, Chris, the Oaks are waiting on you upstairs. The dudes are waiting on you. I'm like, okay, I'm coming. I walk upstairs. There's 120 people in the restaurant, and the whole place breaks into applause for me. Everybody was there. There's not normally anybody there on that night. They're really slow, and we just had the place completely packed. There were about 150 people total came to this meet and greet. It was insane.
Holy cow! So, what office are you going to run for in South Africa that they're probably going to jail you for? What's going on?
Dog catcher.
Yeah, yeah, right. They probably put you in jail for sure. They'll be like, "Yeah, you must be on the take. Chris is not on the take."
It was unbelievable. I mean, it was epic, guys. I was almost in tears. It was pretty amazing. People were really excited. Really, it was a wonderful thing. So we'll be doing one tomorrow. I don't expect a crowd that big. It's in more remote location, but we're doing one tomorrow evening, and we'll see how it goes. But I find myself this time around, every time I come here, I got to behave myself. I can't misbehave because somebody will say that I'm doing this or I'm doing that. But because there's people that recognize me, I don't even know who they are. Last time it was 45 different times. Someone came up to me and said, "Hey, you're the Colonel. Hey, you're Chris," or I watch your program. I've just really not gone anywhere and done anything, but been hung around this one small area for the last 2 days. 14 times already, people have come up to me, including tonight at the concert. I went to Andrea Bocelli tonight. Oh my goodness, what an epic concert!
Yeah, awesome, right? I saw him last month in Knoxville, Tennessee. Unbelievable, great. Whenever he breaks out in the song that they used on Step Brothers. Oh my, love that song. I don't know how to sing it, but awesome. I love it.
It was unbelievable. It was epic. He'd never been to South Africa before. He was going to come here like 20 some years ago, and for some reason the trip never happened. And the rumor is that this is the end. He's not going to be touring anymore, so this might be the end. So this was just incredible. He was absolutely unbelievable. It was he's 66 now, I think, but it was wow, just off the charts. I just got back a short while ago. I was concerned I wouldn't get back because the traffic is just horrible getting out of there.
Wow.
But it was an incredible concert.
Fully blind, right? I don't think he can see anything. Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah, but he can perform, man.
Oh,
what an incredible performance. And all the people that were there with him.
What is this guy, like a modern day Liberace or something? Maybe it's up to flamboyancy, or what kind of music?
Oh, he's an opera singer. Yeah.
He's the most beloved tenor in the world.
Yeah, tenor. Yeah, yeah. He blows the 3 tenors out of the water. He is awesome.
He's absolutely the best. I mean, he's performed with Pavarotti. He's performed with Michael Jackson. He's performed with Celine Dion. Every big name in the business, even Ed Sheeran and guys like that. But he's amazing. I remember he popped on the scene like 30 years ago, and so he's going to retire after 30 years. It sounds like. But yeah, so I went to that. That was pretty incredible. And my host had to have a spare ticket because they had to buy them a year in advance, and the people that were going to go with them weren't available. So the ticket was there. So I went with them tonight. It was just absolutely incredible. Good stuff. So then I come back. I've got a message asking me to come to a public event with a radio station tomorrow here. So I'll be going to that. Today I was interviewed by an engineering news magazine about the new selection for special envoy to the States. And then I've been asked to go to a armored battalion's reunion to commemorate a battle in Angola back in the 1980s on Saturday. It's crazy. It's just it's just one thing after another here, but it's really awesome to be wanted to be talked to.
I think
Absolutely.
I figured out the answer to your question, Todd. Chris wanted to be the ambassador to South Africa, but I think what he's going to do is be the South African ambassador to the United States of America.
Well, it actually is actually legal. He just has to file as a foreign agent, right? Something
Wait a
like
minute,
that.
can he
And
do that? Really?
It is legal. Yes, he can be a representative of a government, but he has to file. He can't do it clandestinely or covertly or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean,
Right.
he would have to, be recognized and stuff. But
Right. I mean, of course, going back to work in the U.S. government after that would probably be shot for sure, but it is legal.
To work in the U.S. government. I don't want to be part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution.
Well, maybe this would be the solution. You get appointed ambassador to the U.S. on behalf of South Africa. That may actually work. Yeah.
Since I got fired. But yeah, so it's pretty crazy. But the event last night, or the night when we have this last night, yeah, the 150 people showed up. One of the couples who came down from Cape Town, because this is still the Cape Town mailing, even though there's no post office, it's gone out of business here. What's Cape Town postcode? So even like 30 miles from the center of Cape Town is still considered Cape Town. Anyway, they came down from Cape Town proper, and when they're on the highway, gunfire erupted. It was a gunfight, people shooting at cars on the highway, and they drove right through the hail of bullets. So they literally took on gunfire to come to my meet and greet. It was unbelievable. It's just, it's South Africa. It's the Wild West, guys. I'm telling you, it's crazy. And this is the part of the country where things are normal, so to speak, and people getting shot at on the way to my meet and greet.
wait a minute. I thought they outlawed guns in South Africa. You mean they got a black market for guns?
We aren't outlawed here. That's in Australia.
Yeah, it's Australia.
So why have I been hearing these stories about farmers and stuff that have been massacred on their property? I mean, they didn't have defense, or?
Well, they come in the dark of night with body armor and weapons, and they break into homes, and they're usually attacking people in their 70s and 80s who are defenseless.
Yeah, and generally, your overwhelming force with the overwhelming firepower is not much you can do with a pistol or a shotgun or baseball bat or whatever.
So they allow guns in South Africa. I'm starting to like this place.
The few farmers who defend themselves are typically put on trial for murder after shooting people who break in their homes and assault them.
Yeah.
Better be judged by 12 than carried by 6, as they say.
Well, there you go. I don't disagree with you. I mean, if they broke into my home, my family, my kids.
And you generally, are they put on trial for to steal their land or something like that? Or is that usually the idea behind it, or what is the reason behind that?
These attacks have nothing to do with stealing land. It has to do with terrorism, to chase people off the land, to frighten them off the land. That's what it's about.
But I'm saying, like, you go in and you see, okay, you've defended your property. These guys were obviously breaking in. Why would you put the farmer on trial? What's the reason behind that?
Oh, it's just racist, malicious behavior. That's all it is.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, we've seen that in J6 and stuff.
Yeah, it's the same sort of thing. Spiteful Democrat. It's the difference there isn't race; it's political affiliation. They did the exact same thing. Yep. So anyway, it's but people survived gunfire to come to my meet and greet last night. I mean, that is wild. That is just crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, but what a story though, that people would do something like that. I mean, most people would probably turn around and go back home, or brave it out somewhere else, or I don't know if I would continue on to my destination. Who knows?
The wife's beating the husband with the purse. You get over there. He only comes once a year. We have to wait a whole other year before we see him again.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's like
Colonel Claus comes once a year. We're on our way.
My response to the car would have been, "Where'd you keep that handgun? Is it in the glove box?" That would have been my response. Yeah. Right? So things are going well over here. Just the beginning of this trip, and the reception's been unbelievable. As I was saying, 14 different times. I went to the mall to buy some dress shoes for the concert tonight, and that way my luggage was lighter. I didn't have to carry it both ways. But I went to the mall, and while I'm standing there buying a shirt at a sports store, this lady's talking to me, and this couple walks by, and they just kind of stare at me, and I kind of look at them, and she looks at me, and I said, "Oh, don't worry about that. People recognize me all the time." She's kind of like, "Yeah, whatever." Who do you think you are? I don't think I'm anybody. I'm just telling you what happens, lady. Anyway, so they keep walking, and guy keeps looking back, And finally, after it went about 40 feet, I kind of waved like this, and he stopped and he came back, and his wife came running back, and they recognized me. We had to take selfies. While I'm talking to them, this older couple comes up from the side. They stop. They recognize me. And then some other guy that asked to meet me, he happened to be there too. I'd never met him before. So 5 times in the span of 5 minutes, I got recognized right there. It was
that is cool.
So
Well, basically, here in the United States, you're a nobody, but you go out to South Africa, and all of a sudden, man, people are stopping you in the street and want to shake your hand.
the guy is a very famous comedian. His name is Barry Hilton. He's very famous here. He's also known around the world. He's performed in Vegas, in LA, New York, in Sydney, Australia, all over the world, London. So Barry Hilton, been doing this for 40 years. I've known his comedy for a long time. Anyway, I know Barry. He's a good guy. So I asked if we could link up because he lives close by. And so he said, yeah, let's get together. So he came over this morning and we had some coffee and actually tea. We had tea and we're sitting there. This gentleman is walking by outside. It's a kind of like a San Diego along the water development, housing apartments and all stuff. Anyway, guy walks by, looks and he goes, hey, he comes in. I thought he wanted to talk to Barry because he's a celebrity. So I kind of step back, but he leans into me. He goes, Colonel, I'm so glad to see you. It's nice to meet you. Well, nice to meet you. And I said, and you know this guy, right? And he looked at Barry and he goes, no, I don't know who it is. I'm like, it's Barry Hilton. He goes, oh, yeah. We did a video later on. I told Barry, I said, there's a strange thing today. You know, someone came up and something strange. He goes, yeah, they recognize you, not me. Anyway, so it's been kind of experience like that. But 14 times now in just like 2 days, people recognize me. And last time, the whole trip in a month, it was 45 times. So I keep track of that now because I think it's entertaining. So anyway, that's what's going on this side of the world, other than shootings and other things. But back on your side of the world, looks like Trump is still moving at full speed. People are freaking out over the tariffs, I see, and that hasn't really died down. Also, the media is still lying about the tariffs. Now we have lawsuits claiming that Trump doesn't have authority to impose the tariffs. But the problem with that argument is that Congress obviated that right. They signed it away to the executive, gave the executive authority to actually impose these tariffs. And now the left wants to argue against that, even though I think it was a Democratic administration in Congress that actually passed that law.
So I think I figured out why the left doesn't want these tariffs. Because Trump's talking about bringing back Main Street. You remember Barack Obama was going to bring back Main Street. Hillary Clinton was going to bring back Main Street. Biden was going to bring back Main Street. None of them could do it. But here's Trump's throwing the tariffs out there, bringing back Main Street. And they're all freaking out like they're being shown up or something.
Well, I think you're right about the good, huh?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. You know, they're being showed up, and of course, they're trying to at every turn tear him down to make him look worse than he actually is. So that way, he's going out there accomplishing it, and they're like, "Well, he didn't really do this, he didn't really do that." Kind of like, you know, I'm not a big LeBron James fan, but I do give him his credit on some of his accomplishments. I'm not there to tear him down and say, well, Jordan this, Jordan that. It's like, let's give him his due where he is due. Let's not look to cut him at every turn. Come on, let's give Trump his due when he's due, and right now he is.
Yeah,
you can't bring themselves to accept that. They are demonically possessed with Trump derangement. I thought Bush derangement syndrome was bad. Trump derangement syndrome is on steroids. These people are demonic. They're burning Teslas. They're lying about things. They're losing their minds over things. I mean, can you imagine? They don't want the government to save money so it doesn't default. They don't care if we default. Then the whole system collapses. Obviously, they're not suffering, so they don't care.
They were the ones collapsing the system. To be truthful about it, they were setting out to do it. But you know, the liberal left were the ones removing tariffs in the first place. I mean, William McKinley was a conservative. He was a Republican. He installed tariffs. He had high tariffs, and the country was really, really wealthy when we had them. And it was 1913 was a tax act that the liberal left was removing tariffs, and to make up the difference, that's where personal income tax came from. You know, I know I've said this on the show before, but it bears repeating because they're stupid.
I'm not going to argue at that point. They're stupid, but it's definitely a true statement. Yeah, the left is just the funny thing is, though, is that they're all the temper tantrums. They're just becoming less popular. The Democratic Party is below 20% popularity in polls now. Can you believe that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
John,
yeah, John. What are you saying? And also, are you in the same studio? You seem at a different angle, maybe.
I got a different camera. George has got this mobile camera. You move it around and stuff, and somebody connected it to my with the OBS, and so I'm like, oh well, you know what? I use that one. Now you can see me a little closer. It kind of balances it out between the three of us now, as opposed to being so far away like a dot.
All you see is a microphone.
And then I got a microphone in front of my face. I feel like Wilson from
Wilson.
yeah. What was the name of that? Tool guy.
Home,
Well,
home
Tim.
improvement. Yeah.
Yeah, Home Improvement. That was
There
it.
you go.
Well,
Tim the
Tim, I
Tool Guy
think
was
the
his.
answer here is, yeah, I think the answer here is you need to spend more time listening to your wife, Tim.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm full of wisdom. I just don't spit it out too much. There you go.
So how long are you going to be over there in South Africa this go around?
Yep. It's usually a month, but it's because I'm framed by other events. I've got that responsibility. So I had consulting to do at the War College. That's, 40 hours a week. I have to be there for that. I left the next day, and then I have the elections coming up in May where I'm judge of elections. So I have to be back to oversee the elections for the primaries in May. So
Right.
that kind of, frames when I can get away. And this is the time I can get away. So that's why I'm here.
Absolutely. Good deal.
So what do you guys think let me ask you first, John. What do you think the next big thing Trump's going to pull out of his hat? Now we're talking about closing embassies and consulates. Any idea what you think Trump might come up with next? Because the whole world is watching.
I don't think he has to come up with anything right away. He's pretty much got him by the short hairs. He did make that statement I thought was really out there. I don't know if it was diversionary or if he's serious, but talking about putting hardened criminals of the United States into prisons in El Salvador if he can legally find a means to do so. And he really triggered the left with this one. So I think that's probably right now his next big thing, if for nothing else, just to be that button pusher.
Yeah, keep him just.
Does seem to really enjoy pushing their buttons.
He does.
Yeah.
Well, he gets him on the ropes, and that's why he's like Muhammad Ali in the ring. You know what I mean? He gets him into the ropes and just works him over so hard.
Yep.
The butterfly and sting like a bee.
Yeah, you keep them distracted on something like that, have them file lawsuit after lawsuit. Next thing you know, there's going to be some sort of settlement with Ukraine or China. Is going to be a big treaty. It's going to be great for America, and all of a sudden they're going to flip out at that point. I think that'd be one of those two things will happen.
Now you brought up Ukraine, and I had a thought about that. If Trump was really serious about ending conflict in Ukraine, right now I'm not up to date on what's been going on. If they're still having war, if they're kind of like quiet right now. But I was kind of wondering, and let me know what you guys think, because I'm not sure that this is a really good idea. But what if Trump was to put troops into Ukraine for peacekeeping missions for the purposes of building and stuff like that, because there's so much damage? Would that not put Russia in a position where they can't fire on Ukraine, because if they kill American troops, it creates an international incident?
Well, I don't think that's a good idea. Putting U.S. troops on the ground. We already have troops there, and they shouldn't be there. They're advisors. But we should have troops around. This is not a fight we have any business being in.
Well, that's the idea. We wouldn't be doing it for warfare. We'd be doing it for peacekeeping mission or for rebuilding mission. I was just wondering, but to me though, having had that thought, I'm going, yeah, but you're putting your own troops in the line of danger. They're not there to fight a war, and if they get killed, you're responsible for that. So.
Right. Yeah, and you'd have to react. And Trump's not trying to get us involved in any wars. He's trying to.
But that was the leverage point. Is Putin would be looking at that going, wow, now if we fire on Ukraine and U.S. troops get killed, then we're really in hot water. Not only is it the U.S., but it's NATO. So it's just kind of like, I'm wondering, if you did that, would Putin actually start going, well, let's really actually sit down and talk now and work this out. But like I said, you don't want to put troops in harm's way, and that's the issue with it.
But the problem here is that we're not in any danger from Ukraine. Democracy is not at risk.
Right.
Peace is not at risk. NATO is not at risk. This is all fantasy and fairy tales, propaganda spread by these leftists and by some conservatives like Lindsey Graham, who have his head so far up his rectum, his eyes are brown. It's unbelievable. I'm telling you, these people sold the Americans a bill of goods. Remember all the sycophants? It was just like the COVID. Oh, you don't have the jab. You're not wearing a mask. Bunch of Karens running around. And the same thing. Where's your Ukraine lapel pin? Where's your Ukraine flag? You can take that and shove it where the sun don't shine. I don't support tyrants and fascists and the most corrupt government in Europe aside from Montenegro. That just isn't how it flies here.
Yeah.
That isn't how it flies here. So, I don't want to hear that stuff. And I've from the very outset not been a person supporting Ukraine. I've not been against it. And what Putin did was illegitimate and morally wrong and illegal. And he should be pay a price for that. But it doesn't change the fact that the government of Ukraine is illegitimate. They're not holding elections. They're overdue now. They are crooked. They're thieves. And where's the $250 billion they give them? I'd like to see some receipts. There are no receipts. It's all gone. All gone.
Well, yeah. Zelensky was claiming that he didn't receive all that money, that it went elsewhere.
Yeah, and whose pockets, and that's one reason.
Well, it is the Democrat Party, so I mean, it could have gone elsewhere.
And that's one reason they don't want Doge, though.
I think where he's confused is He got funding in the form of weapons. He got funding in the form of, as Chris said, advisors. He got funding in other ways that money went towards other things, to administrate other things. It wasn't just necessarily for armaments, So he's misunderstanding the whole concept of allotting the funds. But
Well, some of it's willful and intentional, John. So, for instance, when we started giving money to Ukraine, I was more than happy and eager to point out how much money we're tinkling down the drain. But I had to mitigate what I was saying. I had to modify it and tone it down a bit, because most of what we gave them were actually loans, not grants. Most of the money, percentage-wise, was given in the form of a loan, a low-interest loan. So when Zelensky claims that, loans, no, this was a grant, he's a liar. He knows he's a liar, because they signed loan documents to borrow the money from the United States government, not to be given the money outright. Some of it was outright, but that's a small percentage. Problem is that we'll never see a penny of that money. $250 billion is gone. We'll never see it again.
Yeah.
Might as well have just had a big bonfire out in front of the White House.
The government does give out grant money that needs to be paid back. It's a way of lending, but it's considered grant money. It's not free money, but they do that process.
Right.
Going back to what you said earlier, though, in no way was I advocating for supporting Ukraine. I would just say that Trump wanted to stop a war. I know, but I just wanted to point that out.
Okay. Well, also, I guess a grant is a grant. It's given it. There's no ties. Somebody pay it. It's
Right.
a loan.
They had a Congress made like this grant for black farmers, and the concept was they had to pay it
zero
back,
interest
right?
loan or something.
Yeah, it was a zero interest loan, but
grant.
it was a grant, and so it wasn't free money, but it was a
They
grant.
may have called it a grant, but that's not a grant.
That's what I thought. But that's what they did, and then they also, within the requirements of the grant, that I forgot what agency it was, but they get the first rights. The Bureau of Land Management gets the first rights to buy it back so they can redistribute it or sell it to another black farmer. It was some sort of weird.
Okay.
We have racist policies only support some Americans, not all Americans.
It's ridiculous. I think it's true.
Okay.
The reality we live in. It's even worse over here, where new labor regulations will come out and restrict the number of people at different levels of management in companies that have more than 50 people. And if you don't follow their laws, you pay 2% penalty on your revenue, not on your profit, on your revenue, which will put a lot of people out of business. So it really, really is a mess. But anyway, yeah, that's this side where things are pretty crazy. But back to to our side, on the other side of Atlantic. So the left is filing lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. You have to wonder how much money they have for these lawsuits, and would hope that they eventually run out of money. And I thought that was maybe part of Trump's tactics early on, was to throw them off balance and have them chase after the less important things and waste their money paying for lawyers, only to have no money when the big issues came up. I don't know if that's a strategy, but I think it's a good strategy, and it seems like it almost was a strategy given how crazy some of the things Trump said early on. I mean, we're not going to annex Greenland. We are not going to annex Panama. It's not going to happen. But they spent a lot of money, and they tried to put lawsuits together to stop them. It was just absolutely funny to see the left, how they've melted down here. And they haven't learned anything, have they, Todd? I mean, they're still acting the exact same way. It's all about, divide and conquer, and identity politics, gay, straight, them, they, theirs. That's all it's about. Black, white. That's the only thing these people see.
Yep, absolutely. And what you just talked about is something Victor Davis Hanson talked about with the lawsuits. And it's kind of like he has them chasing their tail. Soon they're going to tire themselves out, and he's going to be able to accomplish anything that he wants to. I think all the big ticket items that he's going to, over the next few years, he'll probably be able to accomplish, because they're going to be out of money, and they're going to be so unpopular that they're just going to be laughed at whenever they show up.
I think they're already being laughed at when they show up now. But
yeah. Well, it's funny is AOC and what's his name from Bernie Sanders from Vermont. They did an event in Montana and Missoula, where all the liberals are, and they had an okay sized crowd, and then they were celebrating the size of the crowd. And it's like, you pretty much got every Democrat voter in that entire state to show up. And now you want to try to pretend like you have some big showing in a red state. It's like, no, those are the people that are always going to vote Democrat anyway. They just happen to show up at your event. It's not a big showing, and you don't even try to compare yourself to Trump. I mean, he dwarfed these little he dwarfed them for sure.
If they pan the camera back far enough, you can see the buses where they bust them in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but they try to pat themselves on the back. Look at the numbers we're getting in a red state. But those are the people who vote Democrat in the red state anyway. You didn't really do much.
And I got to tell you, I've been to Trump events. They do not
Oh,
bus
yeah.
people in there. Those people
No.
willfully show up on their own.
Oh yeah, trust me. I know that very well. And of course, it's funny as all the vacant lots around some of these places that love it when Trump shows up because they make money off of having an additional event. Because usually they make money off of say a football game or a concert, something like that. But whenever you have an unscheduled event show up, it's like that's extra money for the year.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah,
for
they love
parking,
it.
you mean they charge
Oh
for
yeah,
parking? And
oh yeah, big time. They
yeah,
love it.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Unexpected event like that, yeah, big bucks.
Seen businesses go to Trump events, but those are ones organized by people independently, conservatives, nothing to do with Trump organizations. So, I mean, like
Right.
DC, they go down because they load up on a bus a lot easier than taking 60 cars down and put everybody on one bus.
Yeah, this is true. Parking is scarce in DC. But just the same, no, the Democrats will bust their people in to vote. They bust them in for
Yeah.
crowds.
Oh yeah.
If they can't get them that way, they go to something called crowdsourced. What is it? Crowd on demand. You ever hear of this?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well,
You
there's
go
different.
buy your
Yeah.
crowd. You go. It's like written people there. Here, throw a T-shirt on.
Yep. Oh yeah. Well, you look at some of these signs that are professionally done, but they're made to look like they're homemade, and it's like so perfect. You can see how they've done the line and everything. It's like, come on, somebody sat there and took time to meticulously put your signs together so that they're
They were
legible.
printed. What you're
So
saying is
that
they were printed.
yeah, or done paid people to do them by hand, but it's done in such a way so it's very legible. You can see the message. It's not some homespun sign because if you go to some of these different events, it's like you see the same one or the same style at different places because so you know it's done by the same person.
So we had that hands off event here was a week ago.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
week and a half ago on the weekend there on Saturday or whatever.
Hmm.
And there was somebody with their phone sitting there recording this guy. I don't know if his drugs wore off or what it was, but you see these people standing in weird positions, and well, this guy's desperately holding on to this sign and slumped over, and you could see he was like having an incident, with his I don't know if it's meth or what it is, but. And then you can see him come out of it. It's like, yeah, okay. So you're just picking your people off the streets, huh? I mean,
Hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, it's funny. A few years ago, whenever I ran for Congress, we had an event. It was the Democrat candidate and myself, and of course, we invited the congressman who was the incumbent at the time to show up. And you had to be polling above a certain number, and I happened to be polling just enough to be able to be invited to the event. So it was myself and the Democrat, and of course, the congressman had declined. But there was another couple Republicans who were running. Of course, they didn't meet the threshold. And so this lady who was running against me, I don't want to get too in depth here, but she went and hired somebody, a drunk guy off the streets, to come and basically heckle the event and hand out her stuff as people were leaving. And it's like, you have this drunk guy who's homeless, and I'm not making fun of him for being drunk or homeless or anything like that, but you paid him to come stand outside here to campaign for you, but you didn't realize that he's drunk and has and he's doing drugs as he's standing out here waiting for us to leave. Next thing you know, as we leave, he's so high, he's just yelling and throwing her literature at everybody, and it's like, you're such an idiot! Like you didn't vet this guy in the least. And I'm like, this is this what Democrats do? Did they withhold the drugs and the money until after the event? If you don't act out and you can show back up at a certain place, they'll pay you. I don't know.
I was wondering if they had like their drug bus where they stored the drugs
right,
for them, so they can go get a fix real quick when they need it, and
yeah,
just enough to keep them going, string them
but
along.
this guy was just so drunk and high. He was throwing her literature, the literature at everybody, and I'm like, dude. I put him off to the side, and I was like, what happened? He's like, y'all should have invited her here to this event. I'm like, well, how do you know her? Oh, she met me over here, and he pointed to where, and I'm like, which is where a homeless encampment is, and she paid me to come over here. I'm like, so you're here doing the job? He's like, I promised to do the job, and I'm like, well, it looks like you're doing a good job. Take care. And
Yeah,
it certainly helped me out a little bit.
you should have told him. Says here's some jewelry for her to throw. Give him a handful of rocks, right? He's hitting people with rocks.
Oh yeah, it was kind of funny though. I loved it, but
Yeah,
I think I won some votes out of there, which was kind of interesting. There were a lot of fence sitters that are moderate, kind of like will vote Democrat sometime, will vote Republican. I think I pulled some of those voters out of that.
she wasn't winning any votes.
No, she lost votes, I think.
That's funny.
But that's what the Democrats do. They hire people like that, and it's like How do they get them not to freak out? Did they say, hey, whenever you're done, we're going to have your drug money over here, or your booze money, or we're going to keep your stuff over here. Whenever you're done, come back, retrieve your goods, and you'll get your pay so you can go do whatever.
Oh man,
I don't
you're
know.
describing as human trafficking, right? They get these women
Basically,
and take away all their credit cards and all their ID and everything
yeah.
until they don't get it back until they've done the job that's
Because you
required
got
of
to
them.
think none of these people that you know that's generally homeless. Some of them, you look at them, it's like, where's their stuff at? Because they don't go too far away from their stuff, which I
Right.
understand. I get that. That's all your lively possessions. I get it. Where do they store it at? Who's watching it for them? Who do they trust to keep an eye on it? So it's
Yeah, that's
Saw
interesting.
that episode of Bosch.
Did you? Bosh. That's a throwback.
Miss Bosch, what a great show. Yeah, no, it's look, this rent-a-crowd phenomenon is not new. It may be new. We may not be accustomed to it in the States very often, but it's long been the policy or the process or the way things are done over here. With a couple of parties in particular, the ruling ANC party, the African National Congress Party, and the upstart Economic Freedom Fighters, they typically hand out T-shirts and Kentucky Fried Chicken, three-piece chicken dinners, and then they get thousands of people. They show up, and that's a rent-a-crowd. Essentially, is what it is. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Those people aren't there because they believe in it. Those people aren't there because they're motivated because they think this party is so wonderful and going to fix everything for them. They're there because they're getting fed.
Yeah. Well, have you ever seen some of the man on the street interviews here in America? Whenever they go talk to them, it's like, well, why are you here? And it's like, some of them actually say because I'm getting paid, or they'll start to talk about, well, I'm here because of Donald Trump's this dot dot. And it's like, well, tell me a little bit more. It's like, they can't go in depth. And sometimes you'll have people that are there helping organize the events that'll try to push those people along away from talking to the press.
Yeah, they got people. Yeah,
right. They have people that kind of control that.
Crowd control.
Try to keep the media away from just doing the man on the street interviews. It's interesting.
What the left likes to do is they get them together and have a little like a pep rally, and they give them up flyers and stuff, so they get all the talking points and things like that. Tell them to memorize it, and that's what they do. They're glossing over the talking points as they're being interviewed, and when the interviewer starts going deeper and going beyond those talking points, they have nothing, and then that's when you start hearing something about Nazi, fascist, almost over here. They start build a wall, and they start chasing off the reporter. And then we actually saw this. I saw videos of this from this hands-off protest recently.
Yeah, back during Trump's re-election campaign, there was a young lady working the media, and there was somebody from the campaign that was working the event. I think it may have been a volunteer talking with the media, and the media had just walked up to them and was talking with them. And she was trying to get them to stop speaking to the media. And I had to reprimand her and tell her, listen, that's what the left does. If they're going to talk to the media, by all means, remind them of the policy after the fact, but don't reprimand them in front of the media, because that's the story. And she realized that you're right and stopped what she was doing. But I'm like, that's what the Democrats do. But if you do it, that will be the story. It won't be this event and the historic moment this person's having in their life, which they're recounting at the moment. They're not doing anything speaking on behalf of the campaign. Don't try to control that. And that would have been the whole story. And of course, when she realized, she thanked me for it. So,
oh yeah, she's making a mistake and didn't realize she's
big time. Yeah, right in front of the press. And it was good that he didn't have a camera or anything. He was just asking her kind of with a little pad or whatever. But I'm like, I hope he don't report that. You know what I'm saying? But if he had a camera, he would have a story.
Yeah. I think you can say that without hesitation. But no, it is really crazy how people behave when it comes to politics, and these rent-a-crowds and things like that. I think a lot of people just aren't familiar with the phenomena, but now we're seeing it unfold. It's pretty obvious. I mean, the January 6th attacks, like I said, I was there, and there was a guy trying to incite the crowd. People looking like, where you come from, man? Some kind of idiot? Took $1 million, $1 million. Anyway, yeah, it's politics is it makes for strange bedfellows. We see it all the time. You saw it in your campaign, Todd. I saw it in my campaign.
Yeah,
people you think are moral turn out to be reprehensible, reprobates.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And there were some of the goody establishment Republicans, and I've heard this the grapevine. I know the people who were doing it. It's like they'll try to pretend like the negative campaigning, they don't like it or whatever, but they'll engage in it and they'll support it. They're like, well, we're going to spread the rumor that McKinley, he's gay. And they're like, well, I don't think he's gay. He's had many different girlfriends or whatever. And they're like, oh, well, then we'll just say he's a womanizer. And it's like, within like a minute conversation, the person went from he's gay to he's a womanizer, and they're like, "Well, I don't think any of those two are going to work." So they didn't try to spin that, but I'm like, that's what they use the behind the scenes, the whisper campaigns. They'll say stuff like that about people. You know, they're not gonna put it on a banner, but they'll whisper campaign it for sure.
Right. Attempt to attack your credibility and such.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was just funny whenever I heard that. I'm like, okay, so within like 1 minute conversation, it went from gay to womanizer like that. And that's politics, and it's sad.
So did you spin it by saying least you could have do is like made me out to be a swinger or something cool, man?
Yeah, make me look cool, you know. I don't know, Don Draper or something, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Whatever. You know, that'd be cool. I think the Colonel's fading there. He looks like he's a little tired, or he's like a father waiting for his daughter to come home from prom. He's like, she's late. She's 10 minutes late. He's got a shotgun. He's racking it, getting it ready.
I got Michelle sitting right here.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
They're full of rock salt. No, sorry about that. I was focused on something else there for just a moment. Yeah, no, I was still back. I'm still on that kick about the rent-a-crowd stuff. It's just a phenomenon there. So Jessica in Pennsylvania is saying it's 1:39 here where I'm at. I don't know how you do it. Well, it isn't always easy. It isn't always easy. But last week I was fading on our program. I had to take the second hour off, and I was back in Pennsylvania. But that's because I'm working 18 hours a day. It kind of wears you down after a while. So anyway, but what's that, Chuck?
Oh, I said, yep. I was agreeing with you. Absolutely, it does.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you want to jump off it, by all means. I mean, you've got people to see. And
before I go, folks, I want to ask you guys. So, because Todd, you just saw Andrea Bocelli, and it was epic.
Yeah. Yep.
For both of you, what's the most memorable concert you ever been to? Just maybe I was wondering about that thing tonight when I was at the concert.
I would say the Stones in San Diego in 15. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, I'm kind of lame. I don't do concerts. I think I did like a high school thing called Freedom Jam. When I was
Freedom
or something. Freedom
Jam.
That's me. I remember kids in school and stuff coming with like the Pink Floyd T-shirts and and I'm over here going, "Yeah, you've been to the concert, huh? Good for you." I just didn't do them.
He went to the guy. He came out with his mullet. He's like, "I'm at Freedom Jam." Yeah.
Mullets are timeless.
You had a mullet.
Man, they never wear out. No, I actually had a mullet when I was like 12.
No, mullets were never in. I'm sorry. That's a myth.
They never went out, bro. They never went out. I'm not a fan of mullets. I don't like mullets, but they don't look good on me, especially now that I've lost most of
See?
So
I'm a fat version of Hulk Hogan with a mullet. Okay.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
So since John doesn't go to concerts, he can't answer this question. But my most memorable concert, despite the fact that I've seen some top-notch talent and world-class talent, I'd have to say the best concert I ever went to was the first one I ever attended. That was Michael Stanley Band at the auditorium in Ohio University, 1982. Michael Stanley Band was so incredible. They were just so energetic, so impressive, and I was close to the stage, and I'll never forget that. It was the best concert I've been to. I've been to some big names, but that was just absolutely incredible, and it just stuck with me now. That's 82, so that's 43 years ago.
Wow. Right? Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, good Lord.
Sean says Foo Fighters 14 and Metallica in 11, Cape Town. Yeah, I saw Metallica. Okay. Yeah, Metallica was with Bush and Marilyn Manson and somebody else in Germany. I forget what year was that. Late 90s. Yeah, it was good. It was a good concert, but it had rain, so it was a lot of mud and stuff. So it was that was not enjoyable.
Outdoor concert.
Yeah, outdoor. It had rained earlier, and it had all that mud, and I was like, yeah. That wasn't enjoyable. Other than that, the music was pretty good.
CB says that U2 is the best concert she ever went to.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Yeah, imagine. Yeah, I don't care about U2's politics too much on many things, but the music's pretty good.
They've done a lot. I mean, Bono's done a lot for Africans.
Oh yeah, he has done a lot. I'll give him that credit.
I know what you mean. They got kind of a left-leaning.
Yeah, I'll give him the credit. Yeah.
Left leaning. It's understatement there.
He said left leaning. Yeah.
Kind of left. I think they're left. They're so left. Their nose is blue. But
yeah. You're right. They're Smurfs.
No, but I mean, even back in the day when we were all young, we thought U2 was pretty cool because we're listening to songs like Sunday Bloody Sunday. I mean,
Right.
that was a political song in and of itself. They've always been political. I just think a lot of people didn't realize it early on. That's just who they
Right.
are. It's in their DNA, especially Bono. That's what he's all about. I mean, it's about politics, so it's not surprising. But anyway, no, I just was curious who, and it's nice that people jump in the chat here that
Yeah.
are watching this on social
Mhm.
media, offering their thoughts on this because I mean, concerts are pretty interesting. They can be a fascinating way to bring people together, and a great cultural
Yeah.
statement. And I mean, I went to a Neil Young concert at Ohio University, and I think I got a contact buzz because 6,000 to 9,000 people were probably smoking weed in there that night. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, I've done that. I've done Maroon 5. I've done Willie Nelson, Van Morrison. So it's pretty interesting. SOS, The Sounds of Success, back in the day. Yeah, those guys were pretty big.
Very cool. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta see Elton John, which was pretty cool.
TJ
Yeah.
just said Queen in '76.
Yeah, I
I
see
can't
that.
top that.
Yeah,
I
Yeah,
can't
gee,
top that.
my wife is cooler than me. She went and saw Queen, man.
John, that is not
I
hard
was,
to believe.
I was
John-
putting my money into motorcycles. I was trying to live
Yeah,
a sort of life on two
yeah.
wheels.
He was hanging out at the motorcycle, combing his mullet, waiting for her to come out of the concert. Yeah, that's what was
I
going
didn't have a
on.
mullet since I was 12. Come on, man. I was riding motorcycles.
Well, you were 12 riding the motorcycle. I don't know.
Well, you wouldn't be beyond me if I had one to ride, but
Hop on, TJ. Watch the mullet.
just a mullet.
Did you guys see that Dennis the Menace passed away? Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
No,
It's kind of
He
sad.
was a rager. I mean, he just destroyed that neighborhood. He was such a menace. I mean, good riddance. I'm kidding. Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, Mr. Wilson, remember that?
Yeah,
Well, he's
the
been
neighbor.
gone for a long time. He was already old on that show.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But
Yeah,
the actor that played Dennis the Menace, the original Dennis the Menace, has passed away at the age of 73, if I'm not mistaken.
oh wow.
Bit young these days. But no, I can't argue. Queen, any concert Queen, but Queen in '76 must have been like unbelievably incredible.
yeah. Oh, imagine if you saw him at Live Aid. Whenever he came back, and he put it all on the line for Live Aid. He just everything for that. What they performed for like 14 minutes or something, like 3 songs, and he just hammered it out, man. Freddie Mercury at his best at the end.
That was something pretty wild. And he was already sick at the time. I think we didn't know that because he kept it to himself for a long time.
Mhm.
But that was pretty common for people suffering from HIV back then. Rock Hudson, no one knew about it till he died. That sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And it was sad that people were ostracized, to such a degree. And I think people had to die in silence, which is sad. I mean, if they had cancer or heart disease, something like that, would we ostracize them? No, we shouldn't do that to people.
Yeah, but some people still do that today. I mean, they just it's
Sure.
like I didn't even know Val Kilmer was sick. He just recently passed, and I don't think anybody knew. Some people just don't want to make it a big deal. We had a family member here recently. We didn't know he was sick. He passed away. It was
right. But think about
himself.
just back in go to the 70s, women had to suffer through breast cancer, for crying out loud, because we can't talk about it on television or whatever. So, nobody ever discussed it. So people would die of it whenever it was treatable and preventable, or at least treatable in those days. Even rudimentary treatable in those days.
I'm not a big fan of pink or anything, but I like those pink ribbons, man.
Yeah.
So, Chris, you holding up there, man?
Yeah, no, I thought I lose my laptop. Almost fell out of my laptop. That's why there's no earthquake going on here. That's my laptop slide.
No. What's that over your shoulder? What is that? Like a tomato soda or something?
No, it's one of those babushka, those stacking dolls. One inside the other.
little nesting. Yeah, okay, got it.
Nesting, nesting dolls. That's what that is. Anyway,
look like a weird can of soda or something.
Yeah, no, but I've been sitting here, and my audience has been mesmerized by the clock on the wall, which had no battery in it. So for 2 nights in a row, they're like, "Hey, you're in a cheap ass hotel because your
clock didn't move."
I was wondering. I was reading the time off it earlier, and I'm looking at it going, wait a minute, it's still the same.
I did the same thing. I was like, that thing didn't move.
I tell people it's just for decoration. Get over it. It's not a real clock.
It's for spying on you.
It's right twice a day.
It's got a camera and a listening device in there, probably. Yeah.
All right. Well, let me go ahead and drop off then for this evening and say thanks to you guys. Todd, you want to take over and finish this hour out?
Yes, sir. No problem. Be careful, and look forward to hearing more stories next week.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot to everyone out there. Thanks for watching. You got John, Todd, enjoy the rest of the evening, and I'll catch you on the flip side.
Yes,
Awesome,
sir.
man. Have a good rest and get up back at it tomorrow.
Yep.
All right. Thanks
Good.
a lot. Bye bye.
Good deal.
Bye.
Holy cow. I mean, amazing, John. 150 people or 120 people he said he had there.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if you add the people that were outside who left and then the people who stayed upstairs or wanting to meet him, yeah, you're looking at what 150 some odd people. I mean, that's great. I mean, what an audience. That's so cool.
Chris Wyatt comes in like a rock star.
Absolutely. Holy cow. And of course we start talking about concerts, right? I mean, to 150 people at a political rally. I mean, I'm not gonna say political rally, but a political rally here. I mean, you're doing a heck of a good job. You get
Yeah, I've
150.
seen
You
stuff
get
like
150
that.
people.
I went up to Manchester. I remember seeing Andrew Yang, and
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to him about some trucking stuff, in case he won. And not that I really had any thoughts he'd win, but he yeah, that's if he had 150 people, he had a lot. I don't think he had all that
Right.
much.
Right. Yeah. Well, you think about it, you run for a state seat or local office or something like that. I mean, you bring in 150 people. I mean, you're doing a heck of a job. I mean, I know people that do it, but they're burning up their Rolodex, calling and calling and calling people to try to get them to show up, and setting things at a certain time that they know they can maximize that audience. So yeah. And there are people that do the rent audience too, but not a lot. Of course, church folks, you bring those folks in, civic groups, and everywhere you go, you talk up any type of event. Yeah, you can get 150 people at local events. I mean, it's not like a Trump rally or something, but you can do it.
Yeah, there's a reason they want those emails. Hey, the
Right,
candidate's going to be over here next whatever, and it'd be great if you
right,
could show up and do a meet and greet and meet them. And it's, they just want to get the crowd there,
right,
get cameras and
right.
stuff.
Well, if you run like a statewide office, for example, you may do several events in a day, 3, 4, whatever. But
Mhm.
at each of those locations, you may have 20, 30, maybe 40 people. If you really promoted it, maybe you get to 100 or whatever. But at each event that you go to that day, you need to have similar numbers. You know what I'm saying? That's
Oh
how
yeah,
you can kind of judge if your message is getting out there.
yeah. And of course, always if it's you who has control over the camera, they like to play these. The left is
Absolutely.
great at this, man. So they try to pan the audience in such a way it looks like the room is full.
Right.
And if you pan back and actually cover the whole room, they might have maybe filled it to 5% capacity or something. It's like,
Oh yeah.
it looks ridiculous. It's funny.
Yep. Yeah.
Same thing with campaigning. They like to plant people into a crowd to ask questions, so it's controlled questions
Oh yeah.
and answers.
Oh yeah. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's funny. I'll go back to my days working at the White House during the White House Communications Agency, the White House Military Office. So it was not non-political, apolitical job, but working with under the Bush administration and then of course the Obama administration, and doing advance and watching how they work some of these political events. The Bush administration, they'll set out the microphones for say a Q&A, or their campaign people. They'll let anybody go up. Yeah, there may be people that they know is going to go up and ask something. Let's say a local chairman of the party or local campaign chair or whatever. They may ask a few questions or whatever, just a softball. But they're not telling them what to ask or whatever. But then they allow the general audience. But the left, I observed, and I can tell you this for a fact. I've observed them actually handing questions and knowing the exact person that's going to go up there. It's like, oh, so and so from our campaign office down in wherever. They don't really know. They wouldn't know them up here, so they're gonna be the one who asked this question. And so from over here, we brought him in from a different state. He's going to ask this question, and they'll plant those questions. I saw that
Oh,
firsthand.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
either that or they fill the crowd out as people are coming in. It's like, hey, would you like to ask a question? What question would you ask? So now they know who they want to pick depending on what questions they want to ask. If they can control the answer,
Right.
that's the person they're going to pick. They'll mark it down. But,
Right. Well, it's funny. It's funny is whenever you have some of those planted questions, you obviously have a canned answer, but you watch some of these candidate videos and they'll throw out the question, and it's like the person's not even done asking the question. There would be no way of you knowing what this person's going to ask, and they're like 3/4 of the way through the question, and the guy's shaking his head, and they start answering the question. It's like he's not done asking the question. How do you have the answer that quick? And it's like, it's obviously canned. It's a planted question.
yeah, they're trying to make him look like he's some kind of super guy that he's got an answer for everything.
Right.
He already knows
Absolutely.
what you're thinking. He's that good.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let the person finish up with their question, which a lot of questions, and if you ever go to enough political events, a lot of them will be prefaced with some statements or whatever and all this stuff. And And sometimes people just want you to agree with what they're about to say. It won't even be a real question. It'll be more of a yes or no or whatever. Those are the ones you have to avoid, just agreeing, because they may have said, several things that's not quite true. But once you say yes or no and agree with them, well, all of a sudden now that's a record for you, that you're on the record of having taken a stance, that this person has set up for you. Never let somebody set up a question like that. Or never take the bait and ask or agree with it or disagree with it. Rephrase it if you want to, and then answer the rephrased question. That's what you should do.
Right.
But candidates get in trouble whenever they don't do that.
Get themselves in a catch-22.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Never just agree, because there may be several things that somebody said that's not quite factual, or on the money. So yeah, never just agree yes or no. Rephrase it and then answer the rephrase question. That's important, and you'll see any great interview will not allow somebody to squirm out of that. They may rephrase the question themselves just to try to trap the person. If I ask it the same way, well, they're going to just do what they just did. But if I rephrase it a little bit later, maybe I can catch them. They may think it's a different question. So any good interview will do that.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So we got about 5 more minutes before we hit the top of the hour, I think.
Holy cow,
4 minutes.
5 minutes. Yeah. You got a little clock there that you see for the hard break, or do you
if I turn my head and look at the computer behind me here, that's
right.
that's where the
Right.
hard break happens. Now I do have a clock here that George put in here recently.
Okay.
I got the clock on the computer's pretty accurate. They're all pretty close in time, but the one I really got to pay to is that one right there.
Gotcha.
Pay
Okay.
attention to.
Gotcha. There we go. Interesting. Yeah. So I didn't know he was going to go to South Africa. Did he tell you?
He sent us a text message some time ago, but he told us to keep it under our hat because
that's right. That's
and,
right.
Well,
yeah.
You're really good at it, man. You're so good at it, you forgot.
Yeah. Well, he said keep it under the hat. I figured I didn't have to even think about it.
Yeah, he never made an announcement. I thought maybe last week he would have made an announcement or something, but he never did. He just kind of sent us a message here the other day when I sent him the link. He's like, "Oh yeah,
right.
by the way."
Right. Well, you got to think about it. Whenever he goes over there, like he said, a number of times people that come up to him like that, he's alluding to government officials basically following whenever he goes places.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there are some of those people that probably do follow whenever he goes anywhere. I would imagine, just because of the nature of what he did for a living and what he actually does now. I would imagine that's something that actually happens.
You saying they keep tabs on him?
I would imagine that they would. Somebody like that coming into the country. Yeah, absolutely. Because they know he's. I mean, technically, in a sense, he's still an intel official to a degree. I mean, he's an advisor, right? He does consulting work.
Oh, he still works. Yeah, he still does work.
Right.
It's just not,
yeah, I'm not saying he's not an agent or anything like that. Don't misconstrue. But there are foreign governments that will see him as that, even though he's not.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
they want to know.
They want to know
where he's going, who he's talking to.
Well, they might see him knowing his background. I mean, he is open about that, and
right.
They might not. They might see him, as a potential spy or something. I don't know. Obviously, he's not.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it's not, he's not being adversarial to South Africa. The fact that he's doing business there in one way or another, they may want to know what he is doing, who he is talking to. So that is true. He is probably being followed.
I can imagine if a Chinese, maybe he's not general anymore in the Chinese military, but he comes to the United States. I imagine we have government officials that kind of keep tabs on these guys and kind of.
Yes, that's true.
Make sure what they're doing is just coming to be a tourist or something and not.
Oh yeah. That's people that have been that high up just don't show up to be a tourist generally.
Well, Chris does.
No. I'm talking about some former Chinese general.
Oh yeah.
Right,
probably never leaves the country. Probably not even allowed. Who knows?
Probably not really allowed to leave the country unless it's some official capacity or semi-official capacity. All right, folks. We'll be back after the break here in just a few moments. Stick around.
WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. The major stock index is selling off today following remarks by Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, warning that Trump tariffs could drive up inflation and hurt economic growth.
Both survey and market-based measures of near-term inflation expectations have moved up significantly, with survey participants pointing to tariffs.
California Governor Gavin Newsom filing a lawsuit to block the impact of the tariffs, saying farmers' lives are being upended in the state and that the president doesn't have the constitutional authority to levy them. A federal judge to launch contempt of court proceedings over whether the Trump administration ignored a court order to return to the U.S. 2 planes filled with alleged gang members heading to El Salvador. Judge James Boasberg raising the prospect of appointing an independent lawyer. Pennsylvania State Police say the suspected arsonist of the governor's mansion who allegedly tried to kill Governor Josh Shapiro targeted him over, quote, perceived injustices to the people of Palestine. This is ABC News. The Justice Department has filed suit against Maine, challenging the state's policy on transgender athletes competing in girls' and women's sports. Attorney General Pam Bondi.
We have exhausted every other remedy. We tried to get Maine to comply. We don't like standing up here and filing lawsuits. We want to get states to comply with us. That's what this is about.
Maine Governor Janet Mills says she expected the lawsuit, calling it part of a pressure campaign. Florida's House has passed a bill limiting projects like golf courses at state parks. Fort Benning in Georgia was renamed to Fort Moore in 2023, and now it has a new name, Fort Benning. But now it's a different soldier. The name honors Fred Benning, who served as a corporal at 18 years old during World War I and was awarded the nation's second highest honor for battlefield bravery. I'm Dave Packer, ABC News.
Why'd I go to the doctor? One day at the firehouse, I was so lightheaded I could barely stand. Even my crew noticed. Getting checked out was the right call. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com, sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Workdays can be unpredictable, but your workwear shouldn't be. With the Cintas Apparel Plus program, you'll have freshly laundered garments for everyone on your team delivered every week. Cintas has workwear for just about any job imaginable, with high-performance fabrics and an uncompromising fit that stretches and moves with you. Don't leave looking and feeling good to chance. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Join the Campers Inn family and save. For a limited time, get exclusive family pricing with up to 40% off select RVs. No hidden fees, just honest savings, and you'll pay what we pay for freight and prep. Looking to upgrade? Trade up and get an extra $1,000 for your RV. Enjoy exclusive parts discounts and free educational seminars to help you make the most of your RV. These VIP savings won't last. Visit Campers Inn RV today.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago, servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work or restorative services, each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument, memorials of distinction for people who care.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Common Sense Conservative. If it's Wednesday night at 7 Eastern, it is the Common Sense Conservative, joined by my co-host, John Grosvenor. Colonel Chris White was with us during the first hour. Of course, he is right now in South Africa doing a little meet and greet tour over there with his audience from other programs that he does, especially his podcasts, etc. He said he had, 150? We just talked about that in the first hour, roughly 150 today. Interesting. And those are unbelievable numbers, even if you were stateside running for political office as an incumbent, where you had a built-in audience. Kind of interesting. What are your thoughts on that, John? You sound like you're underwater, John. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the audience can hear that or not, but sounds like John is underwater. He's going to be working on that for just a few moments, and I guess I'll be flying solo until he gets back up and running. Of course, maybe he's just trying to see if I can come up with something. I don't know. I think that maybe that's what John's doing. He's testing me over here, live on the radio. Don't flounder, right? John, a little mic check on there. No, got nothing on John there as he's working on that. Anyway, it looks like inside House Republicans, according to Fox News, says it's forming a new task force to battle criminal Mexican cartels. Representative Dan Crenshaw, former United States Navy SEAL of Texas, leading new task force aimed at backing up Trump administration's cartel fight. Interesting. It's quote. Look, there's places we can boost right now to help the administration. The administration is refocusing a lot of efforts, especially in the Department of Defense or DOD, on the cartel situation, but there's no extra money for that. That is something we could produce in reconciliation, Crenshaw told Fox News Digital. Interesting. I know that Crenshaw and, of course, the Trump administration have been at odds and loggerheads in recent months or recent weeks. Interesting to find that now it looks like they're going to be working together, which is interesting, and I hope that is the case. But John, you got me?
I think so. I think you can hear me now.
There you go.
Oh,
Yeah,
geez. It's
loud
just a
and
bad
clear.
connection. Happens
Yeah.
sometimes, you know.
Yeah, it
Apparently
happens.
those XLRs aren't gold plated as they used to be.
Nah, well, the gremlins that are probably loose in the studio, probably playing tricks on you, right? Don't feed them
Yeah,
after.
absolutely.
Don't feed them after a certain hour, right?
So, what were you reading about the while I was being busy? I kind of missed a little bit of that. It sounded kind of interesting. It sounded
Yeah, Dan Crenshaw, Republicans right now in the House are forming a little task force, try to come up with money to be able to fund the DOD and I guess the maybe some law enforcement to go after the drug cartels just south of the border there, down Mexico way.
that would be
So
money well spent.
I
Look,
think you're right. I think you're
the
right.
thing about that is that's where you get your return on investment, because we put so much money into drug rehab centers and rehabilitation and the welfare projects because people are on drugs and stuff, and they're basically draining the system. And if we go after drug cartels and things like that, and I know Trump already marked them as terrorists, so we got a good leverage on them, and we got a pretty good relationship for a prison location for prison for these people, and but yeah, if we can get rid of the drugs in this country, go after these people, and weaken the supply for drug supplies and stuff, then that'll force people to have to start cleaning up. I mean, whether they want to or not, it might be a cold turkey situation, but look, we got to start cleaning things up. It's getting nasty. You can't, we're trying to rebuild our economy. We're trying to strengthen our country. And we got people over here that hold the job long enough to get them enough money to go buy another, whatever they're buying, crack cocaine or meth or whatever. I don't know what it is because I'm not into this stuff. I never was.
Right.
I didn't even take health class and know the difference between barbiturates and opiates. I wouldn't know. I hear people talking all the time, and I'm like, I have a clue, bro. You're wasting your time on me. It's like talking to a wall. I wouldn't know this stuff because I'm not into it. But I see people all the time though, man. They don't hold down a job anymore, and they're unreliable. And we just got to get rid of these drugs in our country. I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir here. Anybody listening to this got to agree.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would imagine most do agree for sure. Don't abuse your drugs, for crying out loud. I mean,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, you see some of these people. I mean, out in public and writhing on the ground and stuff. Just tweaking to no end. People call them tweakers.
But,
and you just looks just how disgusting some of these folks are. I mean, look like zombies or walkers in The Walking Dead. And I certainly feel for people who have those types of personalities or who have who have addiction. I get it. You're suffering, and I'm not making fun of you.
Here's the issue, Todd. We got to go the other side of the coin on this.
Yeah.
Obamacare's failed.
Right.
All right. Obamacare wasn't even designed to succeed. But
right. I
you know,
agree.
you got people are getting on painkillers. I mean, they're prescribing painkillers. These guys that are opiates, and they're very, very addictive painkillers.
Right.
We got no means to wean people off these painkillers. We pretty much cold turkey. We got kids that were putting on these pretty heavy duty drugs, and then they reach 20, 21, whatever age of adulthood, and they're no longer on their parents'
insurance or whatever,
programs, and it's a cold turkey for them. So now they're trying to self-medicate on the street with heroin and stuff like that the Chinese are putting fentanyl in.
Right. Yeah, and what I'm saying is that I'm not attacking or belittling people. You know, people who are suffering with addiction or whatever. But in the United States, you know, in a first world as the U.S. is, with the abundance of everything that we have, right? I mean, there's no shortage of food that's out there, you know, or anything really. People shouldn't be suffering out on the streets like this. And I get it. It's the addiction. It's the drugs that's gotten a hold of them. It's mental illness, whatever the case may be. You know, to try to say it's one thing and there's going to be one fix. But if we are able to go after cartels, go after supply, go after the dealers, it will make it a lot easier to eliminate people that are out on the streets suffering these ways because they're not going to have access to it. So it's either going to
limit their access, and
right.
then we're going to have to put money towards providing them some sort of health care so they can recover from it, you know.
Very possible. Yeah, and I'm not saying that you know, overnight those people who are suffering are going to be fixed, the best citizen ready to go to work, you know, 9 to 5. I'm not saying that, but it's going to eliminate the possibility of somebody, you know, that's you know, a young person just finding out, oh, I like drugs, and finding out that they have that addiction, and they're going to find a way to satisfy it one way or another.
Some of these addictions.
Perhaps it will keep somebody from discovering the drug because they won't have access to it. Maybe that'll help.
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
Maybe so. You know, I'm not saying that's going to be it's going to solve everything, but it's going to go a long way.
Yeah, no, we got to get the drugs away from the fifth graders. I mean, drug cartels have learned to target kids, you know, fourth and fifth graders, get them hooked on drugs today to create new customers for tomorrow. But these things are also avenues for human trafficking. I mean, people get addicted to drugs. It's like, well, you want your fix, you're going to go turn some tricks.
Right.
We ain't giving this to you for free. And and another thing that we got going on is so it's not just drugs, but it's a three combo, right? So you got drugs, you got black market arms trafficking, and you got human trafficking. And our constitutional rights are precious to us, and people are actually black marketing, you know, a lot of these drug cartels, a lot of these gangs and stuff that are fueling themselves off the drugs that are brought in this country need weapons. Well, where do they get the weapons from? They're not going to your local gun dealer and saying, you know, I need like 10 AK-47s here, or give me, you know, that's not how that works.
Right. Absolutely.
Black market for trafficking arms, and
sure,
that would help eliminate that, which protects our rights.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, here's I want to shift gears really quick. We didn't talk about this yet, but we have a federal judge. This is a judicial overreach here, if you will. It says a federal judge, James Boasberg, finds probable cause to hold Trump in contempt over deportation flights. Judge James Boasberg told the Department of Justice he has found that the government showed a willful disregard for his order. Here's the thing. You're a judge. Good luck trying to enforce your order against the president, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, chief executive of the United States, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, good luck, Judge Boasberg. And also, the Department of Justice is not going to go after the president. Move on.
No.
Or shove off with your nonsense.
First things first, a crime's only committed if he willfully acts on his own outside of his duties of doing his job. And he was not doing that. You know, we've covered this. This case has already been covered many times. So it's kind of the judge is just being redundant. What he's doing, it's nonsense. I don't know if he's trying to make a name for himself. I was like, my name's not out there. Let's put it out there. I'll get in the media if I do something stupid.
Yep. And this is not going to help you run for political office if that's the case.
Well,
but
the left love him,
right? Oh, well, yeah, but I mean the left. I mean, running as a Democrat in 2025. Yeah, I'm sorry, buddy. But no, the president has every right to deport these folks. They have no right to this country. So you know, move on.
So it was the Department of Homeland Security, I guess, under the Biden administration that put a do not remove thing on him. I forgot what it's called. There was a thing about non-removal. I forgot. He was labeled not to be removed out of the country.
Right.
by
Right.
DHS that he's not a threat and all this other stuff. First, he's on a visa. Visa can be revoked.
Yep.
Secondly, it's Department of Homeland Security. So if under Trump, if they decide to remove that and rescind that order, then they got no case. They got nothing.
Yep.
And basically that's what Trump did, isn't it? He pretty much rescinded the order, said, yeah, you're out. Revoking your visa, get out of my country. Here's a place jail for you to go rest in.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, you have no right to stay in this country. I mean, we're allowing you to be here. You know, you don't have a right to be here. I mean, it's a privilege for you to be here on a visa, for crying out loud. Now, while you are here legally here, yes, you are protected under the Constitution. But once your visa has been revoked, you can be ousted from the country just like that.
Yeah.
Done.
Exactly. And they're trying to, so
Done.
basically they're trying to legislate from the bench or whatever, or a forced adjudication that's nonsensical. He's got no power over Trump.
Right.
That's why we have three branches of government.
And if you're here on a visa, it is your job to ensure you're not out breaking our laws willfully. You know, even speeding, you have to take care that you follow those laws to the letter. Because even a few speeding tickets could be probable cause to get you ousted from the country. So some judge could be like, or some bureaucrat could come up with that and be like, "Yeah, this guy can't follow our laws. He's out." You know, if they're having a bad day, their boss yelled at them. Oh, a couple speeding tickets gets you ousted from the country.
I could see maybe if they had it
know?
out for him or something and said, "Yeah, we'll use a speeding ticket." I don't think it'd be very common that the speeding ticket.
No. But it is one of those technicalities that somebody could use as a premise. You know, I mean,
especially if it's like over 15 miles an hour over the speed limit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This guy has two felonies. If it was a felony, that's a good enough reason, regardless if it was just felony speeding. You know what I mean? Reckless driving.
Yeah, this judge is just full of ridiculousness.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I've been out in West Tennessee and Middle Tennessee over the last since past Thursday, and on the way back late last night, about 2:00 in the morning, driving by some of these rest stops and on and off ramps, and seeing all the truckers just parked along the side, and you know the lack of truck parking space, and it was on full display last night. I mean, every on ramp and exit ramp, you know, you see all these lights right up and down them. It's like, to me, that's dangerous for those guys individually, but at the same time, it's dangerous for any other driver that's driving. You know,
it is. Yes.
Yeah. So there is something that needs to be done. I thought about you last night. I was at 2:00 in the morning. I'm like, yeah, John is definitely right about this, and it's on full display right here.
I'm telling you guys, the hours of service rules is bogus. The 14-hour rule is the most ridiculous thing, and that's why this is happening. Because if your clock starts when you start that stinking ELD, the electronic logging device, you push that button to start your day, you got a running clock for 14 hours. You can drive up to 11 hours in that 14 hours. When that's up, you have to be parked. And what they've done is the parking ratio is 11 trucks to one parking space out there. So you got 11 trucks vying for every parking space that's available out there. And some places, like up here in the Northeast, it's even worse. It doesn't mean it's 11 trucks to 11 parking or 11 trucks to one parking space everywhere. In the Northeast, I think it's probably even worse. Northeast is not very favorable towards trucking for sure. And so when these trucks are shutting down at night, they got nowhere to park. So they're creating parking spaces. They're parking in fire lanes, which is hazardous. They're creating places alongside the interstate, the off ramps and on ramps. You got places like Massachusetts, you just got no shoulder to pull off on. And if they had room or making room, they put up stakes to prevent them from doing it. Jesus. And then you got the problem of, you run out of hours and now you're on this clock. You can't advance a load. So if you go into personal conveyance, you can go any direction but a forward direction. So if you're going to a direction for parking, you might drive 2 hours out of route just to find a parking space. But it still consumes 2 hours out of your day under personal conveyance. So why not just go forward? And they're saying, well, you'll abuse the privilege. It is full of ridiculousness. It exasperates the parking issues. And you got truck drivers that are more tired now than ever before because they're forced out of this clock. So if they're getting rest, say if you're spending 8 hours at the docks loading and unloading, and you got somebody lumpers is what we call them, that load and unload trucks. If they're doing all the work, you're resting. People fall asleep, they get up, they're fresh, they're ready to go. Why not just turn them loose and let them do what they need to do? When I'm back in my day, that's what we did. We just worked at how, our sleep required, and we got a lot more work done. We were more productive and we were safer. We weren't racing a clock. That was the other issue with the electronic logging device. That was the other issue with the 14-hour rule, is it got you in a position where you're racing a clock. And you know how stressful that gets? You got appointments, you got deadlines to meet, and you're running behind because of a traffic jam. You're running behind because, well, I had to stop because the clock said I had to stop. You know, and so now you have service failures. It's just ridiculousness all the way around. It's reduced people's paychecks as far as truck drivers go. They've taken like a 20% hit in their paychecks. It's ridiculousness. You know, it's just not safer. You know, the FMCSA say the regulatory agency regulating the trucking industry is not for safety. They're a captured agency by the American Trucking Associations, the Transportation Intermediary Associations, and these people are dictating these rules because it favors them. They'll tell you that they got a driver shortage, which there isn't a driver shortage. There's plenty of CDO holders out there. They just don't want to work under these ridiculous conditions. So they tell you they got a driver shortage so they can jack up rates. And what was I going to say? What was the other end of it? So basically, they're trying to manipulate rates with brokers and stuff. I swear, I work with people, okay? And you have somebody goes down to Florida to the Florida Growers Association. They want to know, why can't we get trucks? Florida is one of those states that truck drivers are looking for freight because you get more trucks going in with freight than coming out for freight. And they're over here going, why can't we find trucks? Because they'd rather leave that sit on the dock to jack up the rates and put it on a truck and move it. I'm just saying there's antitrust issues going on here. We can see it, but nobody will investigate it.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, maybe they hire you for like a Doge position, but you'll be, instead of doing the computer snooping, you'll be out there actually. What do you think? Like a detective?
I don't want that position. What's it pay? I mean, can I live off it? Or do I have to do it for free? I mean, like, I'm not like Elon Musk. I'm not self-sustaining here. So
and you get your own truck to drive around in or something like that, you know, and it has you have Doge on the side or something like that everywhere you go.
Ooh, if I get a Doge truck, you talking about like a semi truck?
Yeah.
So it can be exempt.
It's exempt. Hey, it's exempt for 120 days.
It's exempt
John
from all the
Grosvenor,
rules.
he can go out there and do all the things. Exemption across the country, even in California.
You know, it's sad because I've actually seen the Department of Defense ask the FMCSA for an exemption. The Department of Defense is asking permission from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration to move as they need to move to defend our country. Does that even begin to make sense to you?
No, it does not.
None to me.
Does not. You know, they should not, for DOD or something like that, they should be controlling their own movements, responsible for their own safety, et cetera, you know, their own rules.
This government we live under, man, it's nutty. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you think if I had an antitrust issue, who do you think I would go to with an antitrust issue?
Right.
Where would I go? What agency would I go to, Todd? Would you think I'd go to the Federal Trade Commission?
Oh, maybe.
I mean, where would you go? And usually that's the most common thing, right? I believe it's the Federal Trade Commission is where most people go for antitrust issues. But no, that's not where you would go for trucking. See, Section 49, Section 13101 of the transportation policy of the laws says that the Department of Transportation is responsible for the working conditions and the to secure that rates are fair and all this other. I'm just kind of ad-libbing here. I'm not going to get into details. I don't remember word for word.
Right.
But the point is, they're required under policy to make sure that brokers are being fair and to make sure that carriers are charging fair rates and all this other stuff. And antitrust usually is for the benefit of the public. But there's also some stuff in there about how to make sure that truck drivers aren't being misused by brokers and so on and so forth. And they actually got broker transparency rule for this that they refuse to enforce. And so when you send somebody into DC and they go to the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, and they're like, sorry about your luck.
Yeah, they just look at you. Yeah, wrong place. You know,
so when you have truck drivers for 20-something days blowing air horns on Constitutional Avenue trying to get President Trump's attention, finally you get to meet Mark Meadows, gets in there and talks with him. And they send him to Department of Justice. Where they send him? Federal Trade Commission? Sorry about your luck. So it turns out there's a division of the Department of Justice, TEA, Transportation, Entertainment, and Agriculture. They're the ones you go to. They're supposed to work with the regulatory agency for antitrust issues, but nobody tells you this. Nobody.
Yeah. So your regulators, regulatory agencies, that's your administrative laws and stuff like that. And of course, DOJ, that's your criminal side of everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So for
Yeah.
antitrust and things like
Right.
that. And so,
Right.
yeah, they have a special division for antitrust for trucking, entertainment, and agriculture that you're supposed to go to, and they're supposed to work with the regulatory agency to make sure they're doing their jobs.
Interesting. Yeah, that's
And
true.
so I don't care who you ask. You go talk to a member of Congress and they can't tell you. These people down in DC don't know anything outside of their office. Nobody knows what goes on in DC. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to many members of Congress over the years, and and you just talk some of the most basic stuff, and it's like you can tell they're aloof to anything, and how they have some of their staffers that linger right around, right in their ear, ready to cut off that conversation, pull you away, or pull them away rather. Yeah, it's kind of interesting, and just some of the most basic stuff that you could ask them, and they just have no clue, you know.
No, you've got to if you want action out of DC, there's two things you got to do. You either got
Right.
to have the money,
Yep.
and pay their way. If you're
Yeah.
the one paying the bills, you get to make the rules, right? You get to be the one saying this is what I need, and they'll listen to you because they know you're a donor and they want you to continue to donate.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Not just for them, but for the party. And
Right.
and the other thing is you have to have the numbers. If you don't
Oh,
have
yeah.
the numbers, you have no influence.
Yep. No, that's 100%.
So go to DC and ask a congressman to work and see what you get.
Yep.
You don't
that's
have the
true.
numbers, and they'll ask you, "Oh, you're part of an organization. How many members do you have?" They want to know what your member count is. They want to know your level of influence. And if it ain't there for them, you're just like, "You're asking me to work for that? No,
Yep.
don't pan out
No.
for me. Never mind."
Yep. No, that's absolutely true. Yeah. And then it's funny is even to do you request for interviews, you get some of them that'll be like, well, what's the numbers, if you will? What's your audience? What's your reach? Whatever,
Yes, yeah.
What do you want to talk about specifically? It's like, what does it matter? I said, we do free flowing discussions and we may ask any number of things, and I've reached out to a few people to try to do interviews and they ask these specific questions. I'm like, I say, well, myself and the colonel, retired military, the colonel may ask some analytical type questions. I may be asking more personal questions, if you will, like, just for whatever, just, and you may be asking some technical stuff from a standpoint of, say, trucking or constitutionality of certain things. And they're like, those eyes, get big, and they're like, I don't know if I want to participate in that type of interview, because where anything can be asked, you know what I mean? Where it's not,
Yeah, they want to
yeah.
control. Sometimes they'll ask you, say, "Well, why don't you write down the questions you're going to ask, and we'll
Yeah.
review it."
Oh, yeah. No. And I've even offered. I've even offered. I'll just put this out there. I said, hey, if there's specific topics you want us to touch on, or maybe there's a question that there's an issue being faced in that given area or that district or during the campaign that isn't being discussed that you want to be brought up, let me know. I said I may form a question around that and ask you. I said, but I'm not going to take a question that you give me and ask it. But if there's something specific, the opponent's accused of stealing money from the campaign coffers. Really? Okay, give me that. I may ask that question. What do you think about this? What have you heard? Stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. Another thing is too is if you're on social media, the things you say can come back to haunt you. Whereas you say a lot of bad things on social media about government or certain politicians or certain agencies and stuff like that. Well, you're asking for interviews and stuff. They're going to go look you up and find you on social media to see what you talked about in the past. And when they start seeing you dropping a lot of F-bombs, being ugly,
right,
trash about members of Congress, they tend to say, he might be dangerous for me. Let me just stay away.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, what I'll do, I'll just simply send them my website, toddmckinley.com. And I said right there, you can go to the drop down menu. I have a full page dedicated to this show. It has all the different links that we released the show on. At least I think there's still active links, all the different blog spaces, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, yeah, it's all right there. I said, you can go check it out. If you want to know our audience reach, figure it out from that. And also the live audience that we have on different social media that watch us live throughout different platforms,
Yeah. Facebook now is giving you 30 days on these lives and they're deleting them. So
right,
that's
yeah.
no longer an archive where you can refer people or drop them a link to certain shows that you thought they might appreciate. So.
Right. Well, I think they're deleting them in June, I believe.
The old legacy shows, yeah, all the old ones. So I've been copying some of my older shows before we were doing Common Sense, because I save all, like you, I save all the shows.
Right. Well, I need
used
to
up a terabyte.
I need to download probably several months worth of shows. I need to download. So.
Oh, I thought you kept them all.
I do, but I had issues with one of the websites that I was using, and then I just kind of got out of the habit. But I do have it annotated which ones I need to pull.
Oh, okay. Mr. Organized over here.
Mm-hmm.
I start pulling my hair out and
yeah,
I'm kind of like a mess right now with my categorization. It's been a little. I get busy. I get very, very busy, and I lose track. I pretty much got them in spaces. I know where they're at. I just got to go put them in chronological order. But yeah, they definitely not what you can count on for archiving your shows anymore. And YouTube's not reliable. They'll delete your account in a heartbeat. And I just you know, it's best just to save your shows on your computer if you want to save them, or get yourself a personal home cloud server if you need to, so you don't lose them. And
right, yeah. But I'm going to get them downloaded probably in the next few days, a week or so. I don't know. I just got to figure that out. Find the right website that I can download them. The one I was using just stopped working for some reason.
So yeah, I got a link if you need to get them off Facebook. I can see the link. It downloads quick.
If you don't mind, send me that. If you don't mind, just email me or message it to me.
Yeah, I'll email it to you. It'd be easier. But I'm sure people listening don't want to hear all this nonsense, right? Did you hear about Letitia James?
Tell me more.
Tell you more. Oh my God, now I got to pull it up. Let's see. She's facing criminal charges again. Was it?
Yeah.
What was Bondi going after her for before? It was something to do with something she did.
Right. Yeah, but I saw something earlier today about she may be in some more legal trouble. Was it due to something to do with her home
mortgage?
Loan?
She was falsifying mortgage statements and stuff. So Federal
Yeah.
Housing Finance Agency Director William Poltz sent a missive to Attorney General Pam Bondi and Deputy AG Todd Blanche, alleging that James had falsified records to get home loans for a property in Virginia that she claimed was her principal residence in 2023, while still serving as a New York State prosecutor. New York State requires her to have her home address in New York State, so she's claiming she's making false statements to mortgage lenders and stuff about her permanent residence just to get the loans. And I think she's done this in New York City. She bought a apartment building. It was a 5-resident apartment building. She told them lender it was 4 buildings or something like that. I don't know how that helped or why she would do that. I think she bought them with her father, who she claimed was her husband. So she's and the reason why this is important is because it wasn't her. It was what was the other guy's name there? I can't think of his name off the top of my Bragg. Bragg was prosecuting Trump based on the idea that he lied on a bank loan or whatever it was, where Trump paid back the loan with the interest required and everything, and he fulfilled everything, and the bank wasn't complaining. They're like, yeah, it was a great deal for us, pulling the money anytime. But yet they prosecuted against him on it. They falsified this prosecution, and here she was doing the very things that they were accusing Trump of.
Well, the thing is that the bank actually sought Trump out to offer him the loan because they thought they were going to make some good money off of it, and he took them up on it.
I'm sure they did too.
And he paid the loan off with the interest, but he paid it off early, so he owed less, than they thought that they were going to make off of it. So the bank's like, yeah, well, we may charge more interest next time because he paid it off early, with the interest, but he paid it off a lot quicker than they thought.
So how is Newsom going to see Trump over tariffs? This is an interesting one. Have you heard this one yet?
I heard a little something earlier about it on Fox as I was flipping through, but I did not linger too long on the story.
So Newsom filed a lawsuit. I guess it was announced today with California Attorney General Rob Bonta is the first challenge from U.S. state against Trump's signature foreign policy. California, the world's largest, the fifth largest economy, stands to lose billions to tariffs, with major state industries from Silicon Valley to agriculture heavily dependent on global trade. So I guess he's probably trying to sue within the United States for. Trump has the authority. I'm sorry, he has no suit. Trump has the authority no matter what.
Right. Yeah. Well, the thing is that they're going to keep filing the lawsuits, and like we talked about, like we talked about in the first hour, they're going to keep doing it. And here's the thing: if you're Trump, I would welcome every lawsuit. Just welcome every one of them because they're going to spin themselves into oblivion. I love it.
See, this is how stupid the left is. This is in quotes, President Trump's unlawful tariffs are wreaking chaos on California families, businesses, and our economy, driving up prices and threatening jobs. We're standing up for American families who can't afford to let the chaos continue. Unlawful tariffs? I'm sorry, Mr. Newsom, you got to be stupid. They're not unlawful. In fact, they're been congressionally delegated to Trump. Where does he get unlawful tariffs from?
Right. Well, that's the thing. If you want to basically paint your opponent in a bad light, what do? Oh, that's unlawful. Everything is a negative word is always used to describe something. You never do anything that's favorable. Say to President Trump, you always have to paint him in a bad light. Everything that he does is some sort of it's demonic, it's malevolent. You know what I mean? It's evil. He's a dictator. Whatever the case may be, you have to associate him with something that's negative at every turn, and that's what they do here.
So, malicious prosecution is a civil cause of action in California that you bring when a person files a frivolous claim against you and you suffer damages as a result. So,
There you go.
I don't know that Trump would be suffering any damages. I just think it's a frivolous lawsuit that's going to go nowhere. And
Right.
you have a good point. I mean, this guy's doing it to himself. Hello, Holden. How you doing? He he's doing it to himself. He's filing lawsuits needlessly. He doesn't have the authority. He doesn't have any law to stand on as far as filing a lawsuit. Trump's doing his duties well within the guidelines of his job. He's allowed to adjust tariffs. It's within our U.S. Constitution.
Yeah.
It fell under Congress. Congress delegated it to the president when they realized they moved too slow and it needed to be an action that can change more rapidly.
Right.
They had a sunset clause on it. And at some point, I think 1972,
Right.
73, I think they voted out the sunset clause and just completely and totally gave the power to the president.
Right, but it's also another one of those tools in the toolkit. I hate using that analogy, but it is.
Yeah.
Whenever you think about it, if you're trying to bring somebody to the table to sign an agreement, if you will, a treaty, it's within the executive branch or the president's sole authority to basically negotiate treaties. Right, Congress ratifies them and agrees to them, but this is one of those things that he can help bring people to the table, a tariff. And then you get a treaty out of it. That's when Congress, or at least the Senate, has their say in the matter. Just a little bit of behind the scenes there, if you will, a little bit of background.
Yeah, no, that's you're right. It's a form of
the carrot and stick.
Yeah, coercion
Yep.
or manipulation to get people to do what they otherwise wouldn't have done.
Right.
Without-
Right, and no Congress, no legislative body in the world that's ever existed can move fast enough than say an executive, whether it's a king, an emperor, or whatever, being able to issue an edict or whatever. In this case, a tariff, could never move fast enough to have a real true effect. An executive signing a piece of paper saying enact this is a heck of a lot faster than a legislative body that may not even be in session at the time. To come together to agree on whatever the language is going to be without them fleecing us further, adding a number of things to it, ensuring that a tariff would fall by the wayside or any treaty. That's why you can't have Congress negotiating treaties because you would never have a treaty.
No,
Right?
yeah, exactly. No, you need
Yeah.
you need somebody to do your negotiating for you, then lay it out there and they can vote it in or
Right.
Then they can make adjustments to it, tell the president what they need.
And there's a saying though, and it's one that I've used on a number of occasions. I don't know if anybody else has really used it or said it. Maybe somebody's done it and said it in a different way. But you can't make an executive decision through committee. You have to be able to make it one person, boom, on the spot, and that's why we elect the president.
Yeah, I imagine he's got a staff for that though, right? He doesn't just
No, he has
they
a
have
staff for
discussions and
sure.
stuff. Basically like think tank discussions.
Absolutely. But you got to think about it. You want one person to be able to make that decision.
Oh my God, dude! If you're
right
waiting
or
for
wrong.
Congress to make a treaty, it'd take them
Right.
20 years.
Right, it would never happen.
Yeah, it'd take them 20 years and it'd fail. There's laws that they keep submitting them every time a new Congress starts, and they sit there and they don't get any traction. You might get 20 co-sponsors, and next Congress are resubmitting it. It takes forever and a day to get them any attention, to get them passed.
Right. Well, think about the 27th Amendment, I believe it is, to where it talks about Congress being able to raise their own pay, etc. That was actually one of the first amendments. I don't say it's the first amendment that was proposed, but it was amongst the first amendments that were actually proposed to the Constitution. And it took 200 and some years before that actually got ratified and agreed to.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that, you know.
So let's see. Holden says Gavin Newsom is just repeating what his aunt tells him. We all know that's Nancy Pelosi.
Yep.
And he's curious about you, Todd, if you're going to run for another election bid.
Oh, well, for something, you know, I sit on a local school board right now, so we'll see. Something maybe down the road is in the works, but who knows? You know, something's always in the works. I'm currently running for an office in my American Legion, the American Legion, for department commander. So I'll be the state commander here in Tennessee in June, which will be great for the next year. I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, the thing about running for election is just the cost and the revenue raising.
Right.
And it's it can be very challenging.
Right. And the time, you know, that it takes, you know, and of course the logistics of it as well. If you live in a large district, you know what I mean, to be able to get around to places, meet people, and especially if you work full time, you know, that also restricts you.
Todd's over there going, you got to vote for me, man. You got to vote for me. The only way I can win in this, I'm going bankrupt in gas. I've been everywhere, man. I'm like Johnny Cash. I've been everywhere.
You know, and money can, I don't want to say it can buy you an election in a dirty way, but it can buy you an election through being able to have ads put out there, whether it's through social media, television, radio, whatever, billboards, mailers, all that stuff costs a heck of a lot of money. So plus if you want to buy or pay people to knock on doors, you know, that costs a lot of money, shirts, handouts, all those things. And of course, gas and other things that you got to pay people to, and food and all that stuff. It adds up. I mean, so you have to have a lot of money to be able to raise a lot of money to run a successful campaign in a large area.
So I have a friend. He's also from Tennessee. I don't think he's too far from where you're at. Actually, I think he's over there by Murfreesboro, which is a little ways. But he told me, he says, you know, I'd like to run again, John, but I can't see doing it unless I had at least 100,000 to run on, to start out on.
Right.
That sound about right to you?
Depends
on
what
I'm talking for like a house seat, a U.S. House seat or something.
Oh yeah, I mean U.S. House seat. I think what they say on average now, like in Tennessee, is you need to have about $1.2 million to start with.
Wow. So this was quite a number of years ago. He told me this about 5 years ago. But
I mean, if you had a personally $100,000 to start off with, hopefully you have other people who are willing to throw in money as well. If you're willing to put up $100,000.
So this cost of elections is just getting out of hand. I mean, you know, I remember when I think it was $100 million. I think it got to be $100 million to run in a presidential election, and that was probably getting to be about average. And now this last election, it was like over $1 billion each.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's ridiculous. And you think about how much money is wasted whenever you talk about billions of dollars. It's wasted on stuff that's just not going to work.
Yeah.
You know, all kinds of money that's just thrown out there. They're just wasted. And what imagine what you could do with that money in your local communities. You know, we spend it on ridiculous ads telling us that how horrible we are, how horrible those Americans over there are, you know.
Smear campaigns.
Right. We've done nothing, but these campaigns have essentially done nothing but divide the country and has just destroyed the basic fabric of our society. You know, these big campaigns like that, you know, just the lies that they tell about certain Americans, you know, stuff like that, certain segments of the population, you know, the basket of deplorables, all this stuff, you know, instead of talking about real issues and how you're going to bring somebody together and how we're going to solve problems. You know, it's about smear and lie.
Yeah, definitely. It's
you know,
the thing about smearing people is you don't elevate yourself. You're just trying to bring them lower than you. So it doesn't make you better. It doesn't show that you're a better person. You just got to show they're not as good as you. And it's
right.
And it's not truthful stuff. It's usually sickening. But here's an interesting take, and it kind of segues into something I wanted to bring up tonight. Is man is facing a federal charge after allegedly threatening to kill Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and her husband, the Justice Department announced Monday. Al-Kabar Mohammed Amin, 24, of Lilburn, Georgia, allegedly sent threatening text messages about Gabbard and her husband. This was between March 29th and April 1st. Wow.
Yeah, well,
this is what people have to go through when they work in office. I mean, it's not even political office. She just holds an office seat. She's working in a department, and
it is a political office because it's an appointed position. So yeah, it is political.
yeah, I
But
guess she's not political
it's
candidate.
not
in it.
not an elected official. She's an appointed official.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
indirectly
See,
it is political.
and then
So
you have
the
the.
reason.
Go
The
ahead.
reason I thought that segues in is because this thing with swatting is kind of growing. I happen to know a couple of people here just got
Right.
swatted the other night, and yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing. Both of them got swatted at the same time, I guess. But these swatters, I guess people probably know what swatting is, right? I mean, where they make a erroneous phone call to the police and tell them some horrible thing you're doing in your home and going to kill your
Right.
family members or something. So the police show
Right,
up,
yeah.
guns armed, and pretty much in a heightened state of awareness, and so they're hoping that you'll get yourself killed or something when you go out to deal with the police. And a lot of times the police come in, they're not coming in with sirens blades, and they're using a silent approach.
Right, and a lot of times they bust down a door and they're thinking that, well, maybe this person will have a gun and think he's being broken into. Will pull a gun. And be shot.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
and the police have probable cause.
Right. Well, yeah.
So
They
because they were told, and they actually spoof your phone number, man. They spoof
yes.
the phone number so it looks like they're calling from your house.
Sure.
So it's your phone number being used. Then they take that spoof phone number after the swatting deal is over, and they start ordering pizzas and have pizza sent to your house.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's a little signature move or something, but this is kind of like a phenomena that's going around. So all these conservative right podcasters and stuff are getting swatted now.
Well, yeah, a few years ago, it's kind of funny, and I have screenshots of it. I was actually calling myself, and it said call coming from, and it had my number, and it said my name, and I'm like, this is wild. I'm calling and it did that several times over the course of maybe a week or two, and finally it stopped. But I was calling myself. It's kind of weird.
Were you really calling yourself, or were you
No,
being
no,
spoofed?
I was and it's I answered it one time, and it was one of those, hello, it's just Mr. Todd calling, and I'm like, how am I calling myself? Like, what?
Oh,
I don't know.
wow.
Yeah, so maybe they
Wow.
were using my number to call other people, whatever. And maybe
Yeah.
this idiot, thought I'll call this number. I don't know. I don't know how it happened, but yeah.
So yeah, I get these calls all the time, these telemarketer type of calls and stuff, and some of them might be scams. I don't know. I just got to where I don't answer. If I don't recognize the cell phone, you got to leave a message because I'm not answering.
Yeah.
So if I don't recognize the number, it's not getting picked up. And but yeah, I've had them where they you see that they are, when you do the track on the number to see, if it's unlisted or what it is, and names pop up, and I think it's probably really not that person. It's just being spoofed.
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's getting out of hand with the swatting thing, and it's getting pretty bad. So, but this poor guy got swatted, and he got over 25 pizzas sent to his house. And of course they're putting his name, his address, and everything. So these people are expecting to be paid by him. And I guess what he did though is because they're sending notifications like your order has been accepted, and we'll be with you soon. And he put cancel on it. So I guess that's the idea, is they're trying to harass them so that they have to keep picking up the phone and canceling the pizza orders. And
Right. Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, that's horrible. I mean, it's pathetic. Yeah, and people like that do that. I mean, yeah, I no love for anybody like that. I know as
it's disgusting.
I know as a kid we do prank phone calls and stuff like that, but that was, we didn't swat have anybody swatted for crying out loud.
There's a big difference between ding dong ditch and swatting people. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
holy crap.
Knocking on doors in the neighborhood. It's like, yeah, everybody knows who it is. It's like, oh, they're just, but at a certain time, it got to the certain point where we would do it at a certain point, at a certain time of every day. And like some of the neighbors would be waiting at the door, and they'd be like, "Hey, gotcha!" And we'd run away. It was fun.
Scream like I can run. Oh yeah. Nowadays with doorbell cams and stuff, I don't think it works so well. Unless you go up there with a creepy mask or something, then it might.
Right. Yeah. That's a recipe for getting shot.
But yeah, yeah, that happened to Maurice and Eddie from Patriot Prayers Network, and it's like ridiculousness. And Maurice has got a good following over there, but I don't know if they're just going through these podcasters and stuff and picking them up and saying, "Hey, you know what? I'll focus in on this one today or something."
Right.
How it's working, but
well, they're trying to get people to, I don't moderate what they're saying or to stop doing what they're doing altogether to scare them out of the business.
oh, it's a terrorist tactic. I mean, to me, I think it should
Sure.
be listed as a terrorist activity. And
Well, you're terrorizing somebody. Yeah, you're menacing. That's a law, right? You can't menace people.
well, you're menacing people, but you're setting
That's a-
people up that they might get shot. I mean, Marjorie Taylor
Right.
Greene's been swatted more times than she cares to count.
Right.
I think the first time it happened, she had her gun in her hand.
Right.
Because there was activity going on outside of her house. So she had her gun in her hand. And when she looked out the window and saw it was police out there, she laid the
Right.
gun down and handled the circumstance. Had she
Right.
walked out the door with a gun or something, it might have not ended well for her.
Absolutely. And that's what people want.
Yeah.
And
then
no-
you got the use of emergency services. I
Mhm.
mean, somebody could have an accident, really need the help of emergency services, and they're all gathered
Right.
around some innocent person's home, thinking they're answering an emergency call for somebody that's committing hara-kiri on people. So,
Right.
they're using up precious resources that should not be used.
Committing hara-kiri on other
Yeah, I haven't
people.
heard that old 70s term in a long time, have you?
That is funny because hara-kiri is ritualistic suicide for it, but you're saying I love that though the way you used it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
on
an
other
old-
people. On other people. That's good. Yeah.
That
Oh,
was
that's
an old,
funny.
I think, 70s term everybody used to use for committing an act of, weird or whatever. I don't know.
Right,
They always use
yeah.
it just randomly. But I grew up in a time when parents would say stuff like, "Keep your cotton picking fingers off that." As an adult, I was driving down the road one day and I was thinking about that. Man, I haven't heard that term in a long time, man. It was because of the song Jerry Reed.
Mhm.
What song was that? Where he's talking about, "Hey, you cotton pickers."
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I haven't heard anybody use that term. And it started making me think about when I was a kid, when they used to randomly say stuff like that. If you went to pick up something they didn't want you to touch, they'd say that.
Right.
And then I was thinking, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah, well, a lot of people equate it to it's racist because
Yeah, that's why I said, hey, wait a minute.
But it's actually it's not really racist because white people pick cotton just the same. It's because
true.
whenever you're out working in the fields or whatever you're doing, your fingers and hands are getting dirty and blistered and cut up, and they don't want your nastiness on their stuff, especially if you're a
Yeah.
kid. You have slimy hands. I don't want your nastiness on my stuff.
Oh, well,
Picking
the
hands,
the
yeah.
reference is really meaning lowly. You're a lowly
Right,
person.
right. Yeah, you're
And
lowly
because people that pick cotton back in the day were slaves or indentured servants.
Yeah, right. Or people who have to work on their own farm, whatever the case may be. Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
it could be, farm
Right,
workers
yeah.
and stuff.
You-
But
you-
commonly
I don't-
back
you-
in the old day, the white people and black people used to work together in the fields
Sure.
picking
But-
cotton.
Yeah, but you're not worthy enough to touch my stuff, or your hands are dirty, and I don't want them to, to smudge my stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember those. We used to have these old, sayings and stuff.
Right,
My grandmother all the time, she was full of, what's it got to do with the price of potatoes in Germany or
Right.
what was it? Talks cheap, it takes money to buy whiskey. That was another old one.
Right. Well, there's the different colloquialisms that's caught on, whatever. Especially with the rise of media, like you said Jerry Reed. Well, think about it. When Jerry Reed became famous in the 70s, especially, right? You had the rise of media through records and television and other things like that. So colloquialism, local stuff became national, right?
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
stuff like that caught on, right? Little things that were localized, if you will, caught on. And there's places in the Outer Banks. In recent years, people still spoke local dialects that go back hundreds of years that we don't speak on the mainland. It's kind of wild.
Oh yeah. That's how you get different dialects and different.
right.
Like southern states have their own different types of accents and stuff.
Right. I think one was Ocracoke Island, which was devastated in a hurricane several years ago. But I think one of those islands where they had local, they spoke basically Edwardian or Victorian or whatever the English was way back whenever they Georgian English, I think it was. And they had slang things for, like we call it hide and seek, but they had, I forget what they called it. They had sayings from nearly everything, but you would think it was a foreign language, but it was English,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
Kinda-
like the Cajuns. If you went to
Yeah.
Louisiana, you heard actual true Cajun speak.
Yeah.
You wouldn't understand a word they're saying.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holden says a larger segment of antebellum farmers didn't have slaves or indentured servants.
That's true. That is
yeah,
true.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. A lot of people were really vehemently opposed to it, and did not have. We actually had people in this country that used to purchase slaves, and what the reason was is because they were getting them off the auction block, and they would have them work. They made an agreement with them, and they would have them work to pay back that money that it cost them to get them, and then give them free papers and make them free people, and then go do it again with the money. A lot
Okay.
of people don't know that about history in America. A lot of people just think that, slavery was a bad thing and everybody participated, but that's not true. Some people tried to work around it to try to undermine it. Like the Underground Railroad and stuff.
And that kind of works, I guess, in a sense, because you couldn't import new slaves at that point. Is whenever people were doing that, then I could kind of see the sentiment of that.
Yeah. There's a little bit of a logic behind it.
Yeah, I can see the sentiment.
So we got about 4 minutes left, I guess.
Yeah, about 4 minutes. Yeah. What are final thoughts there, John? Anything?
Oh, geez, I've had so many things come to mind today, and when you get in front of a hot mic and
Oh,
you
I
got
know.
to think of something, your mind just goes blank. It's ridiculous, and this is why I'm a truck driver.
No, it's like to listen, right? I like to listen to talk radio. I don't want to be the guy on the talk radio talking. Right?
Yeah, no, actually, I've grown to enjoy this. I forced myself to do this, to be honest with you. I had no voice at all whatsoever. I couldn't speak publicly. It was ridiculousness. Where I had a friend said, "John, you want to do a podcast?" I'm like, if I do that, I might be able to learn to speak publicly. So that's really truly why I got involved into doing this sort of stuff. And
right.
The further I went into it, the more people wanted to do it, and so I got to be doing stuff with people like you and Chris. I approached you about doing
Yeah. Well, and that's how we got connected. Is me running for public office kind of got me to the point where I got introduced to people like you, and of course doing my own shows. We kind of connected that way, and then of course with Chris, you already had that connection, and boom, here we go.
Yeah, I remember I saw you at the Mid-America Truck Show.
Mid-America Truck
Louisville,
Show, yeah.
Louisville,
Kentucky. Yeah,
you were standing there looking all stoic and stuff,
Right? Yeah.
Meet people, and Vito Sagliano was there. Now
Vito,
Vito's funny because he's a short, chubby little guy, and he's all pep and stuff, And
he is former Navy CB. Ran for the 2nd Congressional District here in Tennessee. Yeah, Vito's a good guy. Good guy.
I like Vito. Yeah, he is. He's a very good guy. He's very intelligent.
He is. He's an analytical thinker, I think.
He is. He's a very, very. He goes deep in thought and stuff.
He does.
He sees things through, and he got involved with us with the trucking issues for a while. And he was doing some stuff in Tennessee, and writing bills and things like that. And these were really promising bills, and people started threatening him and his family.
Oh, I know.
And he said, "Listen, guys, I'd like to help, but there's no way I'm putting my family's lives on the risk here. This is ridiculous. They know where I live." And now that's got to stop. So, and that's why he got out of it. He just couldn't. I understand. He couldn't.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I keep up with him on Facebook and social media. So.
Yeah. Oh, you know him. You know him well, huh?
Yeah. Well, I know him well enough. Actually, we were down at Neyland Stadium several years ago. We got a personal tour of the stadium behind the scenes. Kind of cool.
Yeah. You know Aaron Pettigrew, don't you?
Yeah, I remember Aaron. Yep.
Yeah.
He ran for the Republican nomination that year for Senate, I believe, or the year. I think that year. Yeah, it was that year. Yeah, correct. It was that year, 2018.
Yeah, that was the same year. Yeah, same year as you ran.
Yep. Yeah. He was a truck driver too. So.
Yeah, he's still
and a musician, I believe, right?
I don't know if he does music. I know.
I know a lot of truck drivers do. It kind of reminds me of like the cowboys, with their guitar, banjo with them as they go across the desert. That's the way I kind of look at some truck drivers. So,
I would love to do music, and I just got no patience to learn, man. I've had a guitar in my truck, and I'm trying to pluck away at those strings, and I'm just getting more. I'm like the Irish man with the stubby fingers, and I'm just getting frustrated. I want to bust the guitar against the wall, so I'm just like, you know what, this just ain't for me.
You can't be driving and trying to play the guitar at the same time, though.
No, we don't do that.
All right, folks. We'll talk to you next week. If it's 7 to 9 Eastern, it's Common Sense Conservatives right here. Take